let's talk about Gen Zs and really why they have embraced Bitcoin in a way that their parents and their grandparents have not. Like, what are you really seeing with that? Like younger adults in their early 20s. And I know they tend to be a little bit more revolutionary than some of the, people in my age group, which kind of tend to play it safe.
Yeah. So I think the people who tend to get Bitcoin first are those who need it. The people who will get it last are those who are more or less well served by the status quo with finances. And I think the younger generation, like Gen Z, they're not well served, right? So the older generation, let's say boomers, they have, they had the ability to buy a house with, I'm making these numbers up, but it's a rough approximation, with 10,000 hours of minimum wage work. And now it takes 100,000 hours of minimum wage work, right? It's that sort of discrepancy. So those boomers now have houses, and the houses are going up in value. They're fine. They don't really need to change things. Like they're not like, oh, we gotta rethink things because this is unsustainable. They're fine. But Gen Z is like, wait, I'll never be able to afford a house. Like I'll never be able to do this. Like the system is broken. Like we need to look at alternatives. And Bitcoin is an alternative to that, right? It's a paradigm shift. It flips a lot of things on its head. And I think the younger generation is just a lot more incentivized to look to see if we could do better where the older generation is comfortable, right? They're comfortable. Like, I know how things work now. I know how things work, and it could be better, but it more or less has worked out for me so far. So one interesting, anecdote to that is, so I run a Bitcoin education nonprofit, and we have a workbook, a Bitcoin diploma, which we teach to from say 15 years old and up, right?
Wow.
And so there'll be a 15-year-old and a 45-year-old in the same class.
I'm excited that you even have a 45-year-old.
It's often more difficult for the 45-year-old because they have to go through the process unlearning some of their long-held assumptions, whereas the 15-year-old doesn't.
I could see that.
Yeah,
I could see that. And what's typically the makeup, more male or female, if you don't mind me asking?
Of our students, or just like
of your students over the age of, let's say, 25?
So ours now, but not that much. Like if you go to a Bitcoin conference, it doesn't lean male. It's heavily male. I'll say 90-10. It's male if you go to a Bitcoin conference. Our students are probably more 60-40. So it still is a majority male, but it's not as massive a majority as you might think if you just went to a conference or logged onto Twitter and read what people were saying about Bitcoin.
Huh. And so do you think that's changing more as time goes? Like, do you think, like, let's say our children's, we're alpha, our children, I think, are generation alpha. Do you think they will just be solely on Bitcoin, or do you think we'll still have some kind of regular dollar currency or whatever currency wherever you're from?
So my first son will turn 2 this week, and my second one is like a little born in the next few days. And I am pretty sure that they will grow up and use only Bitcoin. They won't use dollars. They won't use euros. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And now, is that just because you're in El Salvador, or you think that's just globally?
A little bit of both. I think it's easier in some places than others, but some places will be earlier to it than others, but everyone will get there eventually. It is objectively speaking a harder money, like a harder asset, meaning like it has better monetary properties. And on a long enough timeline, I think that the entire world transitions to harder money rather than, transitions to rules rather than rulers.
I think that's why the early adoption with men is so, like, I kind of think like that in a lot of ways, how some men think, where it's more pragmatic and less emotional.
Mm.
And I could see that being the case for Bitcoin as well.